Hello, my darlings. Welcome to People of Theatre. Today, I'm standing in a fantastic garden together with Will Tuckett.
Hello. There we are.
And what are you doing today?
So no one's allowed to mark me on my gardening skills, but I have lots and lots of bulbs that need planting. So it's a bit like Gardener's World, but we're just going to get on and do that.
Good. I'll try to help you a little bit.
You will help me.
Okay. Give me
Okay.
instructions. And...
Okay. As you know, I'm anxious about your shirt.
No,
because it's beautiful.
Look, I'm perfect.
Beautiful cherries.
Fine.
So I don't want you to do too much in that. That's all good. Right.
Gardening with style, as you say.
Absolutely. Always.
You never know.
Right. So first things first, before we talk about anything artistic.
Exactly.
We're going to put some. We're going to put some compost in here.
Okay.
So.
Here we are.
Trowel.
Good.
That way. You just fill yours up. That's in the bottom so that I just put some stones in the bottom so that
works. That's because of the water, right?
So the water. Just chuck some of that in.
How much should I?
We're going to like put a load in there, so really get going. And don't worry if it spills because we've got ages. And I have so many bulbs. It's terrible. We got really overexcited. We've got tulips, a whole load of quite camp tulips. These ones, the Carnival in Nice.
Oh,
A bit of that, so obviously we could do some of those. I don't know, do we want to put hyacinths in here? We could do.
I think so.
Okay.
That's white and white, yeah.
And we have a massive allium collection. All-purpose 6-month feed. Guaranteed better results. Well, there better be, otherwise I will complain, otherwise, obviously. But yeah.
Okay. Am I doing fine?
You're doing brilliantly. Because it looks like it's in the middle of summer, but it's actually...
Not really
it's summer. Not. It's
it's just London. Like
it was, yeah, and it was freezing this morning. So when you came, it must have been really cold this morning. Yeah,
exactly. Nice
and now it's nice and warm. What you can't see over here, they are like, it looks like a hurricane has hit. There are loads of raspberries. I got these autumn raspberry bushes. Yeah, and the other day I was on the phone. I was doing some work in the garden because it was so nice, and I just stood there and ate them all. So don't tell my son because he'll be really cross.
No, they're like, yeah,
that's not going to go well.
So you do that like for your sort of like liberating moment?
Well, it's really nice if the weather's good to sit out here if I'm doing some work, because otherwise I just spend all day sitting at a desk inside, and I'm very bad at sitting still talking on the phone, and I do lots of stuff on the phone, and I just walk around. It's good, yeah. It's much nicer. And there's bugger all reception if you go indoors. So people are like, I can't hear you. Yeah. So whenever I make a cup of tea on the kitchen downstairs, there's absolutely no reception at all. So I just cut out and I'm like, oh, I've gone. So
that's perfect.
That's good. Look at you. There you go. Good. Pop some of those in.
Oh, great. Great. And I think we can go now and talk a little bit more.
We're going to talk about art.
Yes, it's time to do that.
Enough of the gardening.
Great.
Bit of art.
Great.
Perfect.
Here we are again.
Here again.
Fantastic.
Okay, we're having a very serious morning.
Yes, the gardening was fabulous.
Marvellous.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks a lot.
And we're going to exchange, so you know, we're going to exchange photos, balcony photos.
A piece of art here at your place.
It's going to be lovely.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. So, staging it,
we're going
Elizabeth.
To do it. Elizabeth, yes.
Tell me a little bit about it.
I have for long been really interested in Elizabeth I. She's such an extraordinary figure and such an extraordinary woman. And when you look back through British history and the sort of history of the kind of Isles around the UK, her influence and the transformation of the country and the sort of Renaissance under her was absolutely astonishing. And the point at that age of enlightenment when she was there, you look at theatre and music and poetry and architecture, painting, absolutely all the arts and the extensions of the arts absolutely came to the fore. But also she was an incredibly strong woman, and she remained on her own throughout her life. You know, she never married. And Alasdair Middleton, who wrote the libretto, and I started talking about it, making a show about her. And the more we delved into it, the more there was to make. We could have made 5 shows about Elizabeth I and not even scratched the surface. And we made a decision to make a show, because it was for Carlos and Zenaida, about Elizabeth through her life and some of the men, the suitors, who aspired to be with her at the throne. And So it was really nice. It was nice to make a show that also involved text, because I love working with text, and it's an extension of a lot of the work that I do, which is not straight ballet. My background is pure ballet,
Exactly, yes.
but as time has gone on, I've got further and further away from straight ballet.
I'm curious to know like more about how you did all your research. How does that happen
Yeah.
actually?
I mean, a lot of it, I'm incredibly lazy. So Alasdair, who's not, and he works incredibly hard, he did lots of research and spent a lot of time in the British Library.
Oh, great.
Going through texts there, also going through some early texts, going through some of the rare books. A lot of the stuff that we used in the show is not written by anybody in this country, but there were so many spies in Elizabethan England that there are lots of Spaniards and French who were spies in the court and wrote back to Spain and to Madrid or back to the French courts saying what was going on. So one of the best ways of getting a really good picture of the Elizabethan court is what the spies were reporting back to the rest of Europe. So he was also looking through all those things. Also looking through play texts at the time that were talking about Elizabeth.
Right.
And the only thing that we took a slight liberty is that some of the things we used were published and were written after her death.
The eyes of many behold our actions. A spot is soon spied in our garments, a blemish noted quickly in our doings.
(1603), Richmond.
She sleepeth not so much by day, neither taketh rest by night. Her delight is to sit in the dark.
She came in with the fall of the leaf, and went away in the spring. News from court.
Much dancing in the privy chamber before the Queen's Majesty, who is exceedingly pleased therewith. Irish tunes are at this time most liked, but in winter, lullaby will be more in request, as I think.
How do you create dance based on text? Like something that...
I mean, well, working with text, particularly from that period, a lot of it is poetry. So the thing that was amazing is that not only was Elizabeth a really good poet, we might just be about to be visited by one of my cats. You can just see the tip of her tail there. Don't drink my tea. Okay. Sorry. Okay. But I completely lost
text and dance.
Text and dance. Is that the poetry has its own internal meter, because Elizabeth was a great poet. Raleigh wrote some really good poetry. I mean, all of the men, Essex, they all wrote really, really interesting poetry. And also you've got Shakespeare, so we use some Shakespeare in the show. So actually, you've got a kind of musicality and a lyricism to the words that we were using. And then very like a musical phrase, you just see where the high points are in the phrase, how that works. But what's really great about working, sorry, this is Moth, one of my cats, is that working with an actor and a dancer is really interesting, because it's not that the actor is the music for the dance, because also the dance needs to in some way reflect, and it's very rarely is it a kind of Mickey Mousing of what's going on, but it's about constantly reflecting back, so the energy is passed backwards and forwards. And I find that really interesting, and it means that you're working with two art forms of acting and dancing, but they're having to understand more about each other, and they have to collaborate in the space. I mean, when I'm gone and it's them on stage, they just have to make it work, and sometimes they get to know what can stretch and what can speed up and where those different rhythms can lie. And I think that is, it's really interesting.
I wonder what was the conversation you had with them? Like, how did you actually sort of rehearse with them?
Well, we started by, and with Alasdair as well, looking at those poems, talking about them, talking about what they were about, what they meant, the period at which they were written within Elizabeth's life, and also that thing where there are no stupid questions in those things where you look at it and go, I don't know what it means. I think that's really important to just go, what's going on?
That's the point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to constantly my big thing is, if you're going to see a show, and it's sometimes a thing I have about dance, I think when you go to see a show, you should not need to read a program.
Ah, interesting.
Because I think if it's a narrative thing, if you're trying to tell a story, I think part of my job is to make it understandable on stage. Otherwise, I am a writer as well as a thing. You just go, no. Our job is to make the art form speak. If you need to read a program for it to make any sense, I think either it's not a good subject for dance, or somewhere along the line I've not quite done my job. And a lot of narrative dance, when people always go, why are people always basing narrative dance on really well-known texts? That's one of the big reasons. Right. Because there are things that you go, dance just isn't very good. Letters are not very good. That thing where people just stand, and I've done it a lot myself, where you just stand on stage and go, oh, look at this. And people look at it and go, oh, and you're like, and you just go, you're sitting in the audience, if you haven't read a program, going, what are you talking? I don't know, what are you doing? So I think one of my things about using text is there are moments where you just go, do you want to just speak to each other? Just talk. And then the whole thing can carry on. And there are quite a lot of people that like dance, but they also love the complication of text and what that does. And sometimes you can just overlay them. Sometimes that means you can put too much in. I agree that that's a problem. But if you're able to get the focus right, then it's another bit of the flower to open. It's another bit of light shining through that prism, where you go, oh, look, that can reflect on that. And actually, this piece of text can reflect on that piece of movement. And then people stop dancing, you just listen to one thing. And then you shut up speaking and you just have a piece of dance about that. But you can contextualize and recontextualize and complicate and give more intellectual weight to something. I think you can do that.
Elizabeth to the Duke d'Anjou. My dearest, the honour you do me is great indeed, sending me often of your letters, but the comfort that I receive from them exceeds it by much, wishing nothing so much as the continuation of your good opinion of me. I thank you very humbly for the sweet flowers, culled by that hand with the little finger that I kiss 1,000,000 times. And I promise you there was never gift better carried, for their verdure stayed as fresh as if they had been culled in the same instant, and showed me in an altogether lively fashion your verdant affection with regard to me. And I hope I never give it cause to wither. Monsieur, I have taken care not to lose a leaf or a flower, despite all the jewels I have.
Here is an imp of the crown of France, come to marry with the crowned nymph of England. The true and natural old English nation never esteemed nor loved the French.
I entreat you to believe that I cannot express the contentment that the bearer brought me, and pray to preserve you in good life and long, with my commendations, dear frog, Elizabeth.
Can it be safe that a stranger and a Frenchman should as owner possess our queen? our chief officer in England, our most precious, rich treasure, our Elizabeth.
Newspapers' titles were "It's a tapestry of dance, music, song, and text." How did you connect all of those elements together?
Well, the first thing was sitting with Alasdair putting the text together, actually, because we made some sort of decisions right at the start that we would begin at the end of Elizabeth's life and finish at the end of her life, and then looked at the characters that we thought would be interesting. You know, these historical figures that we thought, that's a really interesting one, that's interesting, that's interesting. How does that divide up? We made a decision not to have an interval, which is always a really big thing, which I like to decide right at the top, because there's got to be a reason to come back from an interval.
I know, it's a pretty huge conversation. I didn't know that it was such an issue, but I heard so many people like
it's a really big thing, because also when you go and something just stops, you're like, oh,
you sort of makes a little bit.
And I think it's really important to have a moment that you go, so that when you come back in, you resolve that moment. There's something. I mean, sometimes in a show you want to have a real kind of suspension point, so that when you come back, you go, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Will they live? Will they die? Will they ever get off the mountainside? That. But with Elizabeth, we thought actually it's about a progression, and for Zen it was about starting. It's a hard piece because she has to start in a headspace and then get rid of that completely and come back young. And we made a very big decision not to. I think a couple of critics of it were a bit like, that was a bit of a silly thing to do, which is interesting. I mean, it was a conscious decision, is to not make her do old dancing.
Oh, right. So
as the show went on, to not go, oh, my aching bones.
No, you know that.
Well, I was a bit like, I'm not very interested in somebody doing an old impression.
Right.
But what I am interested in is how, as she got older, that affected her mental state. And
her attitude and
how that was then translated into dance rather than hobbling about.
Right. How about the family shows? You produced quite a few family shows.
I have produced quite a few family shows. The dirty secret.
No, and one very recently.
That's out on tour at the moment.
Yeah.
A puppet show based on a children's TV series called Bing, which is out.
Super popular.
Yeah. And we had another show, which is another TV adaptation actually of In the Night Garden.
Okay.
Which has been, it's just finished being out. It was on tour for 9 years in a big tent. Yeah, I know, it kept on going. Wow. It didn't tour in the winter, it was just like summer months, but that was very lovely. And that's for tiny little kids from like 0 to 3.
Huge responsibility to actually.
I'm really glad you said that. For me, it's a massive responsibility because actually it's their first time in the theatre.
Right.
And I think, I know over 1 million and something, 100,000 people saw it, and over 90% of the audience was brand new. Now that's partly because they're tiny, but also it's a lot of parents who've not been to the theatre before. And I kind of go, the responsibility of that is really big. The thing about, subsidy decreasing and doing more commercial work, it's really funny. It's almost impossible to do education work around commercial stuff because it just costs money. And you're constantly looking at the line, are we going to recoup? Are we going to make profit? Do the investors get profit?
Great.
Yeah. So that.
Fantastic. Great. I think we need a drink now.
I so need a drink.
Let's do that.
I mean, it must be 11:30, but it's not actually. It's a little bit later than that.
It's true. So I think we're ready. Let's Q&A spritz.
Yeah, time for continental spritz. I think it must be lunchtime.
Oh my god, yes.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Okay, fine. Brilliant.
Let's do that.
Let's go. Amazing. And I have to say, I don't know if you can see on camera, these are like the perfect, that you have made the perfect drink.
Oh my gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's responsibility here. Okay,
hold on, we're going to do this, and then you have to forgive me, okay? This is just too much fun. We're going to take a picture.
Chin chin.
Chin chin. Lovely. Right. So here we let's have a sip. Cheers.
Cheers.
Chin chin. Salute.
Yeah. Good.
Santé.
It's quite good, isn't it?
That's really good.
I think it's good.
Oh my God, well done. God, that's good.
And thank you so much. Look, the olives.
Oh, please.
Oh my God. Peanuts. It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you very much. We should have one.
I want to have one. All right. There we go.
You're ready to go.
Right. Excuse me, talking with my mouth full.
Here we are.
Right. Let me switch my phone off properly.
Good. As we said, like you work with dance, opera, mime so much, so many different art forms. You never repeat yourself, I guess. Is there any particular art form that at the moment, right now, you're particularly more interested in or that you're looking at differently?
Well, I have a horrifyingly significant birthday happening in February. And I have decided that I've always wanted to make feature films. I wanted to direct a feature film, and I've just gone, before I keel over, that's what if anybody wants to give me some money to make a feature film, I've got several ideas. I have always wanted to do that. And I've made some short films, and I've choreographed films and done that, but I've never been able to do that. And I've just gone, the next 10 years, it's all about making films.
Where is it coming from, actually? Is he?
Well, my dad, it sort of was when he was an art teacher, my father, and he took us to see films when I was really tiny, when I was little. And then when my parents got divorced and my mum remarried, and my stepfather, he was an eminent classicist, and he was a brilliant man and lovely. The very first things he wrote about was cinema.
Oh.
And when I came up to London, I skived terribly from school. I hated the Royal Ballet School. I was always skiving.
You hated the Royal Ballet
School?
School?
I really hated it. And weirdly, there's a bit of me that should have left then and gone to film college. Because it's what I wanted to do. But I used to go to the Scala Cinema, which used to be in King's Cross. And they used to show art house cinema, and they would have 3 or 4 different films a day. And I would skive and go there. If you left, you had to repay to come back in. But if you bought a ticket, you could stay there all day.
Fantastic.
So I
did. So like film's always been there, I guess.
Film's always been there, and I've just never quite shifted it to that. So that's what I'd like to do. And I'd also love to write some kids' books.
Also kids' book, like not only like family shows, but also kids' book.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I see.
There's a couple of things, but I don't know if I've got the discipline to do that, because I'm quite lazy.
And I mean, when you do get some gardening, I don't know, you can also...
I could, but I know, but the thing is, I then spend all the time casting. So I'm not writing the book. So yes, that.
Great. Now, oops.
The cat has gone.
You're safe. Any sort of favorite on-stage moments? Because you've been on stage quite a bit.
There's a ballet called Manon, which Kenneth Macmillan choreographed, and we were doing it in Athens, in the Herodias Atticus, which is the old amphitheatre under the Acropolis. And I'd never done the jailer in it. And the jailer's a pretty grotty part, and it's a bit of a weird old part because you kind of do a kind of balletic, rapey scene. It's a bit dodgy. It's a bit dodgy, and it's a bit rapey. But everyone's kind of wearing lots of lycra, so you're like, so it's like safe sex with lycra. And I was doing it with Sylvie Guillaume, who obviously was like a bit extraordinary. And she'd forgotten she'd never done it with me because she was doing it with so many. I mean, she worked with so many people, and she was like, "No, it'd be fine. You'd be fine." And I was like, "Maybe rehearse it."
A little bit,
no. So we never had a rehearsal. God. And she was like, "You just remember to on the thing and keep my leg on the back." And I was like, "Funny was afterwards, I came off and I was quite like, oh, it went quite well." And Sylvie's a bit like, "I'm not throwing my leg into turn, and you're maybe with her." And I was like, "Yeah," I said, "It would be great. Could we have a rehearsal next time?" And she was like, and then she's like, "We've never done it before, have we?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, she was gorgeous. She was like, "I'm so sorry, I just completely forgotten." But there was something immediate in that was so exciting. And so you're so alive doing that.
You
just go, it's this one tiny moment. It doesn't mean anything and it doesn't, but you do go, that was good.
Fabulous.
It was great.
Nice.
Oh, it was lovely. Nice. She was lovely to dance with. She was really nice. You know, we worked with each other in the end quite a lot on different things, but it was lovely. But that first time was unbelievably scary. It was quite scary, yeah.
You mentioned like Manon with Kenneth Macmillan, and you worked with him. What's your memory like? Tell me a little bit about him.
I mean, the thing that... It's funny, isn't it? Because I was, to be honest, I was a bit little to do a lot of work with him. The thing that I remember really clearly was being very young in the company when dancers who'd made the roles with Kenneth were there. And the thing that was really interesting is the amount of freedom Kenneth would give you. And it is there in the shows that, like, we do something at the end of a musical phrase, and then you've got 8 bars to get over to a table on the other side, pick up a gun and waggle it or whatever, or a skull and, that sort of stuff.
Up to you, then do that.
But he was just going, you've got that music, make it interesting.
Wow. And
he taught me a lot about what I like about telling stories and sometimes what I don't like about stories. And so my memory of him is so tied up really in being in the things. I was too little to have a relationship with him. I was 17, 18. But I've grown up with him all the time around, with those ballets and with being in them and with those roles and watching them shift and change. And it's weird because in America, more so now, but they didn't used to like any of his work. They just didn't like it. And I'd always go going, how do you not like this? I don't understand it. Yet they love Cranko, but they didn't love Macmillan. And actually, then when you get into the pieces, they're quite different in how they're structured. And Kenneth's have much more freedom for the artist to interpret it. Cranko's do, but you're much more told. They're much more guided through. Yeah, it's much clearer. The instruction is much clearer. And you look at the people around when Kenneth was making the work, and you can see why they were all in the same mindset.
We are mentioning about the freedom that Kenneth Macmillan would give to the artist. Do you also have this kind of approach to work when you are choreographing and rehearsing?
I do more as I get older, actually.
So you were a little bit more restrict in the past?
Yeah, well, I think I thought my ideas were best. Okay. Just got older and you're like, well, they're not.
I need some help.
And I think any idea that the best idea in the room is the idea you should use. That's it.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Fantastic. Let's change card. How about today's choreography? I want to know what you think about new choreographers, emerging choreographers? Anyone you're following?
People whose work I like, it's Crystal Pipe.
Yes.
And she did a piece for Troffenheit, which was on, did you see it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was gorgeous.
That piece.
Yes.
It's one of the best things I can remember seeing.
I would say if you haven't, you should actually go and see it.
It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it's dance theatre, but it's dance theatre. I mean, there's so much dance in it. It absolutely blew my mind. The dancers were incredible, particularly actually the first half of the show. And I thought the actor Jonathan Goddard, who worked with her on it, was incredibly brave. It's really upsetting as a piece. It's about the death of his daughter, and yeah, I got goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Yeah, absolutely.
So at the moment, that just kind of went, and I'm like, no one's coming close to that at the moment.
Wow.
I just thought I thought that was astonishing.
Nice. Good. You were mentioning a little bit of bad reviews sometimes, and you were saying like somebody didn't like it and whatever.
Well,
what's your relationship with that kind of like?
It's a bit better than it used to. It's a bit better than it used to be. It's really hard not to. I mean, some people just don't read reviews. They're okay.
I don't, in fact.
Do you know?
No, I'm a little bit against rating stars and.
You see, I know it's funny. I don't know how that came in, the whole stars thing. Yeah, but actually, that's commercial theatre. It's a way of selling it. I don't know. It's hard when you spend nobody sets out to make a show that's bad. So you don't go, I'm going to make something really terrible. That'd be nice.
That's the thing. There are so many efforts behind a show.
Yeah.
And from a review, you can't really get the idea of...
No, I mean, and also, we all do things in life that everybody has good days and bad days at the office.
An artist should be allowed to have those too, yeah.
It's not even that you should be allowed to. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some of the things are just not going to work. But if somebody, when you got home at the end of, like you were doing a project at work, just goes, well, that was, I hate that. That was terrible. You just go, oh, really? Equally, you have to suck it up a bit because in the theatre, you are saying, please come and see this.
True.
Please walk in through the door, pay your money and see it. I mean, my wife who is a curator and runs a museum, says the thing is you can go and see an exhibition, you go down to the National Gallery, you go and see whatever. You don't have to buy the art. And so the tricky thing, there's a contract that when you've bought a ticket, and the more expensive the ticket,
is very high.
Yeah, the more expensive the ticket, the greater the contract, the stakes are higher, so that if people don't enjoy it, they feel entirely at ease with saying they haven't enjoyed it.
Right.
I mean, I do sometimes think that some of the critics are not always as qualified as they feel they might be to be saying what they are. And I don't think there's always an effort to actually go an extra mile to find out contextually what a piece is, how it was put together.
The idea being really behind it.
Yeah.
They don't talk actually.
No, they
most
don't.
of the time.
No.
To
At the
people
same
who made
time,
the show.
I go, that's life. So I don't know. It hurts when you have bad reviews. I find it quite hard not to read the reviews.
So you do read the reviews?
I do. I shouldn't. Sometimes I haven't. But sometimes I have. I don't know. It's hard.
That's it.
Room 101. Reviews.
Let's get more political.
Oh.
We mentioned about it before.
We're going to have to take a big drink before we
Yes,
do.
please. Me too before I say it. Okay.
Cheers to it.
Cheers.
Here we go. Right. Here we go. Take me there.
Brexit.
Oh!
Now, here we are. Imagine that the camera right there is a lever. What would you tell them? Talk to them.
Well, so from my purely selfish, my standing in the arts, where I stand in terms of the arts, from music, performance, fine arts, festivals, that you might go to, oh, let's go to Latitude, let's do whatever, those things. Anybody that is coming from Europe within that, for the organisations who are making those things work, the amount of obstacles that Brexit will put in the way of people coming over to share those art forms with us, and in terms of immigrants coming over. I say I do that because I actually don't regard them as immigrants. There are more people that leave this wretched country than there are that come into it every year. And I think this country, the art scene, will struggle to survive without people from Europe working here. And lots of arts organisations will go under. Lots of festivals will go under. Now, the thing is that you go, it'll be sorted out in 2 or 3 years. That is too late for those people. You only have to have 1 year with it not work. And that is 1 year too many for a lot of those organisations. And that will mean they will go down. They will no longer exist. And that will mean that they aren't able to share their stuff. It may not be a thing that you're interested in, but it will go down. I look at the number of dancers in the Royal Ballet and just go, they may not be able to stay here to do that. And then you get into this really divisive, unpleasant thing of going, well, who is more important as an artist? Is it the corps de ballet member or the principal? Is it the person in the chorus, or is it the person at the top of that? Is it the person who's making the video that is informing you about that? I go, cheerio. Are you allowed to stay? You don't even know.
Exactly.
And then I look at London on a wider scale and just go, so recently on the tour of this kids show, I've been staying in lots and lots of Premier Inns. I've stayed them in London, I've stayed them all over the country. I must have stayed in about 15 different Premier Inns over the last couple of months. Almost every Premier Inn is entirely staffed, predominantly staffed by people from Europe, all over Europe. True. And I kind of go, okay, so who wants that job? Who wants those jobs? They're not taking jobs from anybody else. They are advertising for staff. There aren't enough people to do it.
They offer skills.
They offer skills. And they're not just offering base skills, they're offering skills right the way through. I can just go on and on about this for a long time. I feel utterly gutted that my child will grow up and the idea of just being able to go to France for a year, go to Italy for a year. If I go, should we go to Italy at the weekend? We could just get on a plane and go, not if we need a visa.
No.
If I want you to come over to the UK and go, I'm having a big party, come over. No. Get a visa, apply for a visa, and you may not be granted that visa.
As it actually usually happens.
Yeah, so already, this is the thing that people don't know, is how difficult already it is to get performing arts visas if you're coming into the UK for places outside of Europe. When that starts to happen within Europe as well, we are in a dire state of things.
Let's drink.
I got one other thing.
Yes,
we're going to drink first because it's too awful. So, the day after the Brexit vote was announced, not the result, that we were going to have a vote on the referendum, basically all the funding for films coming through Europe within this country stopped. And once it was a vote leave and the result came out, it was an absolute stop. No one is being given European money to fund films in this country or television series if they're being made independently. And that is a tragedy. It's hard enough to get films made in this country as it is, but we were so reliant on co-productions happening all across Europe. So if you want to go and see Akram Khan, so much of his work, they are funded by pan-European money.
Yes.
I might want to make something that tours to all these different places and everybody puts in some money. It won't happen anymore. And it will mean that we are really suffering in terms of what we're able to contribute to the world artistically. And one of the strongest things we have in this country is the arts.
I agree.
I am totally against it. Sorry.
That's it.
Yeah. Horrible card.
Horrible card. Sorry. Such a pain.
But now,
the first question now. Let's see. Let's find out who Will Tuckett really is with these really tricky questions.
No.
Get that.
Right.
Have another drink.
Quick. Look, I'm doing worse than you are.
Oh my God.
Come on then.
Okay, let's start. Who?
Quick fire round.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
My idea of perfect happiness. A cup of coffee on a sunny morning in the garden with my cats. Yeah.
Beautiful.
My family's not
picture
involved,
that.
mate.
I was just saying with your
there's no
son.
family, darling. No family. No, just the cats.
Both cats.
Yes.
Good. That's feminine as well.
Yeah, okay.
What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
I deplore in myself. I'm a really good liar.
Ooh, that's very interesting.
I wish I was a less good liar.
Which talent would you most like to have?
Talent I would most like to have. When I was small, I gave up playing the piano. My next door neighbour used to teach me how to play the piano. And I couldn't think of anything worse at the time doing that. But now I wish I could play the piano.
Will Tuckett a pianist as well. My God,
Well, no,
so much.
I would never. No, I'd never want to do anything with it. It would just be fantastic to sit at home and play, particularly the Gobbo variations, which is a thing that I carry with me. So I love that so much. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to be able to do?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
I wish.
So, yeah,
exactly. Who are your favorite writers?
In terms of
any.
So
very general questions.
General questions. I love Raymond Chandler.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
always like Raymond Chandler. And who are my favourite? It's really hard choosing favourite writers.
No, there's so many.
I love Ted Hughes.
Okay.
I think Ted Hughes. He's a poet.
Okay.
A fantastic poet. I love his work. I love Evelyn Waugh.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good.
There's quite a lot more, but I'll stop there.
Enough.
Stop there. Yeah.
Which living person do you most admire?
Living person I most admire?
If any.
I think Barack Obama is quite a dude.
I think so
I think
too.
he's pretty amazing. And he goes hand in hand with, quite literally, Michelle Obama.
Yes.
Who is also
amazing.
kind of dudette.
Yes.
I don't know. Those two I'm a bit like, that's pretty cool. Those two I think are pretty
I love them too. What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
When you run out of coffee. No.
Just quite an issue.
Like, did you finish the gin? At that moment, the lowest depth of misery is instantly achieved. I think the lowest depth of misery is to feel that you are failing your children.
That's a hard one.
You know, it's a thing that I've realised working around the world. Everybody wants their children to have what they did not have and to have the best that they can give them.
Right.
And to feel that you aren't able to give that to them and that they are being denied things that you can't do is desperately miserable making.
Definitely. Wow. What is your regret? No, what is your greatest regret?
My greatest regret?
What to say?
Sometimes doing things because I think I ought to. I try and do that less if someone gets me in trouble. But yeah.
It does happen though.
There have been things in life where I've gone, oh, yeah, but I ought to do this. And actually, it would have been better to have gone with my inner conviction that I didn't ought to be doing that at all. Yeah.
What is your current state of mind? Ooh.
Looking forward.
Fabulous. Very positive. What is your motto?
What is my motto? I don't have a Latin motto. What is... I'm never going to be able to remember it properly. Fail again, fail better. What's that?
Look forward. I don't know.
No, there's... hold on. I'm going to look it up.
Good.
So
okay.
Hold on.
To do that.
I'm going to look it up.
Please.
Because it is a rather brilliant motto. Hold on. I'm going to Google it. And then you can ask me the question again. Fail again, fail better. It's brilliant. try again, fail better.
I love it.
Which is, yeah,
one.
There you go, Mr. Samuel Beckett.
Here we are. Wow.
Try
Brilliant.
again, fail better.
Wow. Good. Well, Will Tuckett, we're coming to the end of it. Thank you very much.
What an absolute pleasure. No, I'm sorry, I have witted away at you.
Oh my God. No, it was brilliant.
What a pleasure to meet you.
And
Thank you for my gorgeous drink.
Here we are. We should
finish
finish
that.
Here we are.
Cheers. What a complete pleasure.
Amazing. The last cut is gone.
Thank
Will
you.
Tuckett, thank you very much. You're an amazing guest, an amazing host also, because your place is super, super gorgeous. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
And you, my darlings, thanks very much for watching me. And please do visit my website, peopleoftheatre.com, and do follow me through my social media. Like me on Facebook, love me on Instagram, and follow me on Twitter. And I'll see you next time. People of Theatre, from stalls to stage.